I want to point out the weird lighting up here. Okay, I can't really see it now. Okay, it was there a couple seconds ago. Um, I don't make it look like I'm like Jesus on purpose, where like the light's like shining down like that. It's just how the timing, I guess. Anyways, Nameless Narcissist here once again, giving you some facts on MPD and the inner workings of my head. Keep in mind, I'm no clinician, so I hardly know what I'm talking about. I just know my experiences. I also read a lot, so yeah, take it as you will. Anyways, if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, whatever, I don't care anymore. Anyways, we're talking about a very contentious topic today. Empathy. You gotta love it. I think that's like honestly, one of the bigger things that people talk about when they talk about NPD, that people almost find it characteristic of it, this lack of empathy. There's a lot of emphasis put on it. And it's a topic that confuses me a lot just because how I experience things is very profoundly different, but it is something that reminds me very frequently that I am not a normal individual. Now, first of all, I want to address this, I don't even know what to call it, just this common belief that if you're a narcissist, you can't have empathy, because that's not true. To be a pathological narcissist, you need to have 5 of the 9 symptom criteria. Impairments in empathy is only one of them. I'm so sorry. That was embarrassing. I want to start this over, but I don't want to record this again, so I won't. Anyways, that's only one of the symptom criteria. You could hit every single other one and be a very maladaptive individual and still have empathy and be a pathological narcissist. So I want people to keep that in mind whenever they meet somebody that does, like myself, have MPD. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not super common that we would have empathy, or we wouldn't have impairments in empathy, but it does happen. Not that I would necessarily trust the pathological narcissist take on how empathic they were, but you know what I mean. Oh, man. So, first of all, empathy versus sympathy. A lot of people get these terms confused. I mean, I know I confuse them all the time because one of them I struggle with. I've never really heard something that I think does the difference justice, but the closest that I've ever found was, I was listening to this podcast called Healing for the Narcissist, and it's a pretty good podcast. I'd recommend it. If I remember to link it, I will try to. Basically, sympathy is experiencing emotions as you would in that individual's situation. Like, I imagine how I would react if I was going through like a breakup like that. Normally when I try to help my friends going through breakups, my tendency is to try to help them get angry, which isn't the correct response, but that's how I relate to that. So it's kind of hard for me to put myself in that situation. Meanwhile, empathy is experiencing the emotions that they're feeling as they are. Which, the distinction there is subtle, but I think it's very profound. I can sympathize with a lot of people. But if their situation wouldn't invoke the same emotional reaction that it would for me, I will experience a completely different emotion, imagining myself in that situation. While people with empathy will experience the emotion that they are feeling in the moment. And then you, of course, have the distinctions of the types of empathy, because what the fuck even is empathy? There's cognitive empathy, which is being able to understand what somebody is going through in any given moment. And then there's affective empathy. And now, according to studies, this is one people with pathological narcissism struggle with. We can understand why somebody is upset about something and understand the emotional reaction, but we might think it's stupid. But we aren't going to experience their emotions. This one I'm never super confident talking about this because I don't understand it. I don't think it sounds like a real thing that people just like experience other people's emotions just because another person would experience it. That seems awful. Like, holy shit. I feel bad for you guys, honestly. It's like, oh, this person's dog died, and you're like, and not even like imagining your own dog dying or anything like that, but it's like you're just sad because somebody around you is sad. That's fucking nuts. It's like a fucking superpower, I swear to God. Because I genuinely, like, I struggle almost every day whenever I think about empathy, about whether or not it even exists. Affective empathy, that is. Because it just seems so buck wild to me. The only thing that really solidified in my mind that affective empathy is a real thing and not something that, like, literally everybody else is making up, I guess, is once when I was like, once a while back, I experienced effective empathy for the first time, which I think is like, maybe then, maybe we can heal more than I thought. But it was with somebody else at NPD, and she did that thing where like you like stub your toe on something that's inanimate and you get really angry at that object for like having, I guess, the audacity to exist. And like I felt anger, and it wasn't directed at her but at the thing, and it really confused me and scared me, and I made her leave. Cause like I was like, where is this emotion coming from? Am I annoyed with her? Like I don't know where to direct this. And I think some people with MPD who do have little moments like that where they do feel effective empathy will probably misplace the cause of the emotion of empathy happening, because we are so unfamiliar with all of our emotions that like will attribute some other cause to it, because people do have a tendency to do that. They'll fucking, like, I remember there was a study once, I don't remember where I read it, it was so long ago, that like people will think if they were given like this mild stimulant and then made to look at this like girl but not told they were given a stimulant or some shit, and they were like, oh, why is your heart racing? And they're like, oh, I must be infatuated with them, because we assign our bodily sensations to external causes when it comes to emotionality. And like, I think this is where a lot of people get confused also, is that since we have cognitive empathy, we basically choose whether or not we're going to give a shit about somebody's emotional state at the time. So like for friends, I can understand what they're going through and why, and sympathize with that. But if it's something I don't care about, then I can be very cold. Doesn't mean we're incapable of it. And like if we like somebody and care about them, then we're going to do the best that we can to alleviate the distressing thing. How we go about alleviating that distressing thing might be, a lot of people might view as problematic, but oh my gosh. And I feel like a lot of like, I want people to like, I also want to emphasize the fact that like, yeah, sure, a lack of empathy causes other people a lot of emotional distress, right? But why is it a symptom criteria if it's only causing other people distress? The DSM is made for treating the individuals, not for the people around them usually. And so you have to wonder, like, I mean, hell, even look at like antisocial personality disorder. When you look at symptom criteria of like law breaking, it's not, I don't think it's in there because that's causing other people distress. It's because, oh, they're going to get arrested, and that's probably bad for them. But I think the reason that empathy is a symptom criteria is that it not only does it not allow us to connect to people, but it makes us feel almost inhuman sometimes, or constantly. And that's a little bit of conjecture on my part. But I have a friend who has a schizo disorder, and they go through periods where they do not experience effective empathy, and that's very distressing for them. And it's like, why? Why is that distressing? And I asked, like, does it make them feel less human, and does it make it harder to connect with people? And they said it 100% makes it feel like I can't connect to people, and 2, it doesn't make them feel less human, it makes me feel less human. And I was like, oh my god, that resonated with me way too much. But we can also project that feeling of inhumanness onto other people, hence where some of the more problematic behaviors kind of rear their heads. But despite that, and like and the emphasis on the fact that like a lack of empathy can be a distressing symptom. I mean, I know I've had a significant amount of stress about just being like, oh my god, everybody else is like crying right now. I don't know what's going on. Why is everybody sad and I'm not? Why am I so different and weird and defective? Does that make somebody a bad person? We put a lot of emphasis on empathy being like a positive human quality. And I'm not saying it's not, but I'm also saying that there's somebody lacking it. I think it's a little bit of a jump to say, oh, because you don't have empathy, you're a monster. We can make everybody makes active decisions to be good people. I know a lot of people with effective empathy that have made bad decisions and been bad people. Not been bad, well, I'm sure there's a lot like that, but I'm more saying made bad decisions, I'll say. In fact, I can use my lack of effective empathy in very positive ways. I had I can be very emotionally intense. I'm in cluster B, so obviously. And so when I try to vent and talk about the things that bother me, I can get very wound up. And that can be overwhelming for a lot of people because of their effective empathy, that it's just like fucking, and that causes them distress. Me on the other hand, I don't get overwhelmed by any degree of emotionality that's not directed at me. Like somebody can be like, if I'm not, I can basically choose whether or not I feel bad for a person in a situation, and I don't have to share in their emotions, so I can be a lot more level-headed about it, and I can like listen to them vent if they need to, with no issue. I had and I will say another distressing aspect about lack of empathy is forgetting that other people have effective empathy. So when you go off the rails like that, you're just kind of confused that like, why are they so upset if I wasn't yelling at them? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's very confusing. But I think that it's like a good takeaway when I'm reflecting on this is kind of like empathy is just one of those kind of differences between people, and both can be used for good and bad. I can see a lot of ways that people having very high effective empathy can be, like it will lead to behaviors that are not good. And same with lack of empathy. It's more how the people use these traits rather than the traits themselves that make it good or bad, or make good and bad's not the right word just because that feels black and white, but adaptive or maladaptive, or hurtful or not hurtful. But yeah, that's a quick overview of empathy. Again, like it's such a contentious topic, I felt disingenuous not covering it at least a little bit. But regardless, I hope you'll enjoy it and found something insightful with this. Again, I have to have a happier topic. I'm sick of being so down. Fuck. I just want to be like happy and all over the place. Maybe it's just because I'm hungover. Who knows? Anyways, I hope you have a good day. Take your fucking meds.